being transparent, being able to discuss things with people, not being afraid to say, listen, this is just the way it is. Learning how to push back. My career really started to kind of go somewhere is when I was just willing to be able to be transparent. The more you do it, the more you realize people aren't going to yell at you, but they're going to want to understand and work with you. And then in turn, you start really wanting to work with people and understand their point of view. And that's really how you move forward.
Welcome to the Forward Slash, where we lean into the future of IT. I'm Aaron Chesney with my co-host James Cartman. James, who are we talking to today?
Today we're going to be speaking with Josh Marotti, one of our principal software engineers at Calibrity.
I'm Josh Marotti. I've been in IT, for like around 25-ish years. I've been a consultant the vast majority of my life. I've worked in various different roles I've tried project management to, I got into Agile real early, did enterprise architecture, was a director at one point. So I've kind of touched a little bit everywhere throughout my career. And I've been with Calibrity a pretty long time. I'm coming up on 8 years.
So I have an interesting factoid here that was handed to me that you're also an NFL referee. So do you like picking on guys that are bigger than you?
I'm a college football referee, not an NFL referee. So
okay.
I know several NFL referees, including some guys that just did the Super Bowl. But no, I get picked on a lot more than I pick on any players. That's for damn sure. You learn you learn how to get thick skin really quick. And this is going to be my 12th year in college, and I'm almost 20 years since I've started doing referee altogether. So it's an interesting side job, and it's a lot of fun, and keeps me in somewhat shape, although that shape right now is pear, but I at least get to run around a bit.
All right, Josh. So the way we're going to do this, you're going to get a series of questions. You get 100 points for each question. And for every question you miss, we'll set you back to 0. And if you have any points left at the end, you win the grand prize, which will be a year supply of respect and instant gratitude. And there's no way of saying thank you like instant gratitude. So without further ado, James, let's go into the lightning round.
Josh, are you ready? Are you clear on the point values and what they mean?
Yeah, I think if I answered all of them correctly, I'm not going to get the prize, but that's fine. I'm still good.
So what got you into the field of software engineering?
I think I'm going to speak with, at least in my generation, a good 90% of everybody got into this because we really liked video games and wanted to code video games. I mean, let's be honest.
What was your first exposure to software development? How old were you, and how did that happen?
I can't really give you an age. I was young, but it was a Commodore 64 that you plug into a TV, and so it was way back in the 80s. I'm giving away my age a little here. And that kind of got me doing like the 10 go to, or the 20 go to 10, print something in 10 and seeing it go on the screen. In high school, my junior year of high school, we had the math teachers teaching some basic, and I aced it into the point where there was like 4 of us that were really good at it. In my senior year, we got to do Pascal, and I got to learn how to use pointers and references. I wrote a fractal, and we had a 486 with a math code processor. So by the end of the day, you could actually see the fractal. It didn't have to be overnight that it had to run. So that really got me interested. And then I went into, school. I was a college computer engineering degree major. Fun fact is that right before my freshman year, we had this little course where you just learn how to use the Unix systems there and stuff like that. And while we were there, they're like, hey, there's this new thing, the World Wide Web. If you want to go to Yahoo, and because we were all learning how to use Gopher and Telnet and stuff like that. And it's like, like for one day, we learned how to do this thing that ended up blowing up while I was in college and learning about it all. So that was interesting. But yeah, we went immediately into C, and that was a weeder course. And the fact that I knew how pointers and references worked, like, got me out by the skin of my teeth on my first year. So it was an interesting journey, and probably very different nowadays. We didn't have YouTube and stuff to help us teach these complex concepts like pointers and stuff, especially for a young high school kid. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it and fell in love with it and all that.
That's great. When you look back on your career, can you think of any sort of like, moment, a pivotal moment in your career that may have significantly influenced you and how you go about software engineering today?
Yeah, I'm going to say not more than just software engineering, but the whole consultant mindset. I mean, I had a pretty big moment in my like mid 30s when I was having some issues at home and I had to go through divorce and all that kind of stuff. And I used to be really good in my 20s, and I'll readily admit this as being kind of a jerk. I learned how to, make throw a whole bunch of balls in the air, to lie to make sure things went smoothly, to people please and that sort of thing. And it all kind of came crashing down at that moment in my life. And I had to go through a lot of therapy, and I learned to be transparent. Now, I wouldn't recommend people doing it the way I did it, which was throw out the baby with the bathwater and be super transparent about everything and not caring and stuff like that. You still need to add caring and don't be a robot, but being transparent, being able to discuss things with people, not being afraid to say, listen, this is just the way it is. Learning how to push back. It's so much easier when you're transparent. Whenever you can say up front, hey, this is a problem we're already running into, and we're way early in the project. That's a lot easier for people to take and be able to move dates and stuff like that if necessary, than waiting till the last moment and say, oh, we didn't finish, we need another month. That kind of was a big transformation on my part, and that's whenever my career really started to kind of go somewhere, is when I was just willing to be able to be transparent. Handle I mean The more you do it, the more you realize people aren't going to yell at you, but they're going to want to understand and work with you. And then in turn, you start really wanting to work with people and understand their point of view, and that's really how you move forward. It's like, whenever you're young, you're always like, I have this point, I wish people would listen. And it's like you need to kind of reverse your thought process of, they have a point, I want to listen to theirs, and hopefully if I listen to theirs and acknowledge theirs, they'll be able to listen to my point, and maybe we can come to a solution. And that's I was way too late in my life, I feel, to kind of get this. I really wish I would have gotten it in my 20s. But yeah, that's the real big kind of shift in my life that kind of happened at some point in my career.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I guess the problem with being overly transparent is people see right through
Yeah,
wow.
you.
Well,
that's
well done. Well done. Uh,
that's something.
good times.
Good times. Good times.
That's pretty good. So, I mean, I don't know. Don't sell yourself short on the violent swings. Going all in. That's kind of the way our entire industry works, right? Oh, hey, this DevOps thing. Okay, there's no data centers ever. Let's run everything from our laptops. Like you build it. You know what I mean? It's just these violent pendulum swings with the whole industry. So I think you fit right in.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned a little bit of advice, but we had a question here about that. Kind of jotted down about like if you had any advice to give to an aspiring young software engineer or an aspiring young consultant, you know, what would that be to help them excel in their career?
This is a canned response that everyone that's ever been mentored and ever reported to me has heard. And that is, find three things that everybody hates or no one wants to do and become an expert at it. I will give you my three. It is testing, it is pipelines like DevOps pipelines, and it is observability logging alerting. If you ever go, I'll go in, I guess, normal order, which is like testing. If you go to any organization, as consultants, we never go to, rainbows and puppy dog environments where everything's working great. They need our help. So I guarantee you look at their tests and people are just going by the numbers and trying to hit a metric or something like that. And they don't truly do good testing. They don't understand good testing. They don't fall back. They don't want to do refactoring because their tests don't, they'll fail easily. They're brittle. So learn how to do that really well and just go in there. It's like when I'm first on a project, I want to go. It's funny. I was just talking to Daniel Silva about this yesterday. What's different about being a consultant and being a Liberty consultant versus just an FTE there. And it's like my first day to kind of, you almost want to show your potential as easy as you can, but don't overdo it. Don't try too hard. But it's like I could go into a client and go into their tests and make amazing tests out of it and improve whatever they're working on without having to really know the domain. I could go into their pipelines. My last client, I went to their pipelines. They were having a lot of stuff that wasn't automated. Automate all the things. That's what pipeline development's all about. I don't want to hit buttons and push things and wait for responses. No, just put it into the pipeline and let it do it automatically. Every single organization dashboards terribly, alerts terribly. You should be able to go to one dashboard, see the entire system, green, yellow, red, everywhere where necessary. And red really means things are down. Yellow means that, yes, there's a consistent problem, and green means everything's good. And if you do that, the yellows and reds pop out like crazy. And it's really easy to say, hey, there's a potential problem here, or this system's down. We need to know how they're all related and what all's missing and down. And that sort of thing. I mean, stuff like resiliency is big nowadays. Containerization. You understand these things that some people don't quite understand. You can really stand out, and you could really be very, very important to a group early on, and really be able to, because you're doing stuff people don't like. I mean, who doesn't want someone like that on if someone wants to do documentation, you can be on every one of my teams. You will be my right-hand person. I will love you to death because I hate documentation. So just find some things people hate and be great at it, and you will really stand out, and it'll really help further your career because people will want you around.
That's great. And good advice. So that brings us to the halfway point. So far, you've got a perfect score of 300 points. So let's take a break to know you a little better. What would you say your favorite skill is outside of IT?
I used to think that I was really good at seeing other people's perspective, but I've known too many people that do it so much better than I do. Being able to try to put myself in the feet of other people, and it makes, like whenever, and it all relates back. You do great at your job. I could take my best trait is I could take a lot of heat. If you really, like, I always offer to people, if you want to yell at someone, and that's because that's the way you relieve stress, or you need to, that's the best way for you to cool off. Go tell me. I mean, I want a little bit of a heads up, but come yell at me. I literally do it. I've learned how to do it. It's a skill I've established in my reffing career and stuff like that. I can sit there and take a beating all day long. Feel free. I mean, I'm great at that, but really, I mean, what really I fall back to is trying to understand people's perspective and why they're doing the things they do. It really does. It's become it's funny coming from me, someone that talks way too much. It's like developing that listening skill to be able to try to understand people's perspective, and it could be silly things, and you can be wrong, like they're doing this for traditional sake, but you kind of have to learn how to ask questions, so be able to approach a conversation and say, instead of saying, why aren't you doing this thing, you idiot, it's like, I kind of need to understand why this decision was made, because I know you made the decision for a good reason. What was it? And try to take that kind of stance. And I guess I'm pretty good usually at that sort of thing. If you ever heard me vent, when I vent, I sure don't do that. I just vent to vent. But I do try to get into that perspective whenever I'm actually talking to people and having a serious conversation or something like that. So trying to get other people's perspective and get that little bit of thought process is something I really strive to do well.
Well, and they do say that before you criticize a man, walk a mile in his shoes. That way, when
Mhm.
you do criticize him, you're a mile away and he doesn't have any shoes.
Yeah, that's good advice. Because I could take a verbal beating, but I don't want to take a physical beating. So a mile away sounds good.
Yep.
I think we should start giving points to Aaron for these quips.
For
I
dad
think,
joke,
yeah,
dad joke points.
yeah. I think
When
that's
they're really terrible, we'll give you 10.
yeah. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. As a consultant, and as any technologist, our field changes so much, so often. I think since we started this episode of this podcast, there's 12 new JavaScript frameworks have been invented. Right, like it's just crazy. How do you stay informed and stay up on all the latest trends and new best practices and all of those sort of things? How do you go about doing that, and how do you incorporate that into your daily work?
We're just going to skip over. We're going to talk to Josh about JavaScript frameworks. Okay, this is where I'm going to lose all of the points that I just earned, for the record. Maybe this should have been my answer to my last question, but I'm going to go in a completely different direction. I'm going to roll back, I promise, to what the actual question is. I always say there's two types of consultants. Ones that understand the whole system, so they take a lot of time up front to understand top to bottom and really understand how everything kind of works and interconnects. And there's people that's like, give me the problem spot, where it is in the code, what the problem is, I'll solve it, and eventually I'll learn the system as I kind of touch all the different points. I am that second person where it's like I can get stuff done quickly, but I'm not going to understand the full system, and I'm going to have a lot of questions. And if it touches other systems that I'm unaware of, I could cause problems. But I can usually get in there quickly and learn quickly. I learn on the fly. I learn by fire. Hey, we're going to be using a container. Okay, I got to learn this now. And I don't know if that's part of like an ADHD thing with me or anything like that, but it's like it's been a long time since I've actually gone out and learned stuff, but that's also because I've got decades of experience. So it's like this works similar to how this other thing worked, and like how we used to do proxying works similar to how Spring does their proxying, and CGlib works. So it's like I already kind of have an understanding of the overall how it works. I just need the details, and I've had to learn different languages, but once you learn how functional languages work and procedural languages work, it's just syntax at that point. So I'm not the best. I used containerization earlier. I'm not the best containerization person. I have an understanding how it works. I know it from a very high level. If I need to get the details, I'm Googling and querying and learning on the fly. So not the best answer. We all need to be learning. If you're not learning, what is it, Liaya-Coca? If you're not moving forward, you're going backwards. But yeah, I tend to learn on the fly, and fortunately, I've been in projects where there's been a lot of new tech, so I'm learning tech up front. But yeah, I don't do a ton of reading. I've got multiple children and a family and a side job, so I don't have a lot of time, especially in like the fall and spring times. But so I don't do a lot of learning outside of work, but I do a lot of learning inside of work for sure.
Nice. Yeah, I think everybody's career, the engagement ebbs and flows. You mentioned children, and that's a big part of our lives, of course. And those things just kind of come and go. I would imagine when you were younger and before you had a lot of these other situations going on in your life, you probably did do a lot more research. I'm guessing. I know that was the case for me.
I could. I don't have them out right now because they're all ref books. But yeah, I could have all of my old the C language book, and yeah, I learned from books because it was before the internet because we're all that old. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of reading. I remember Spring having good online documentation. It's the only time I could actually say, "Wow, this is good online documentation." That's changed quite a bit because now books are so old that whenever they publish, you're two versions behind.
Can you discuss a time when you faced maybe a particularly challenging problem, at work with your project or some sort of a setback maybe, and how you overcame that?
Let's say a massive online retailer. If you go like into their signage, and it looks like someone hand wrote, this is what this item is and this is the price. That's all. It's actually a specialized printer that does that, and it's all in a system. And I helped write, or not write it, but I was maintaining that system. And back in the day, I just had various different Linux terminals up, and I would go into the database and do stuff. And I was testing before there was unit testing, and I was doing testing in a test environment, and often we just blow out the database, recreate it, and with more test data. And I did that, except the creation didn't work. The blow away script worked fine, but the creation didn't work. And I was wondering what the heck's going on. And I'm debugging, and then it hit me. I was in prod, and I blew away all the prod data. And this was I remember when it happened. I remember feeling that dread, like, oh my god, no, 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 no. Looking, yes, it's prod, and going to my boss and saying, I think I just wiped out prod. And he went and verified, and I was at my desk sweating bullets, and he pat me on the back, and I was like, I don't think you can do much more damage today, Josh. We're gonna have to get back up, so you can go home early for the day. And I remember going home thinking, I think I just got fired. And if whether I should go to work again the next day, and I did, and I wasn't fired, and it took 2.5 days to do it, and it It was a learning experience. What I did at that point was you change your terminal when you're in production to a bright red background and green writing that's hard to look at, so that you don't stay on it and you're not on it accidentally. But it eventually led me to never ever. I have a big. If anyone ever talks about just going into prod and changing a database, like just logging into the database, I am way against that. I believe services especially should have like endpoints that are administrative, that have auditing, and you have to have a special permission or whatever to log into, that you can service your own account. You should never ever ever have a production database where you can just go in and do whatever you need to do, except for extreme last case scenarios. And if you do that, you're going to find yourself a lot more secure. Yeah, it was one of those days that stuck out in my mind, because it's the only time I actually thought I got fired for screwing up in my job. And also, whenever you get to more of a management kind of, or like someone's reporting you kind of scenario, whenever someone fouls up, um, I can think of a scenario on the other side where someone did almost the exact same thing in a big data project much later in my life, and he reported to me, and he accidentally blew away the database. And my response was, well, we're just going to have to recreate it. We've done this before, and it was a prod database, and it's like, let's get that all set up, and I'll buy dinner. We'll be here for a few extra hours. And I asked the kid that did it, why don't you, because he was sweating bullets and he was nervous, and it's like, hey, why don't you come help me? I'm going to get a whole bunch of pop and I need help bringing it up. Come to the elevator with me. And he came to the elevator and broke down crying, because he thought for sure I was just going to sit there and scream at him. And I was like, no, I actually wanted to go relive all of these experiences when I screwed up prod, including the one I just gave. And I was telling him all these stories, and it's like, it happens. It's going to happen in your career. I don't need you to fall over and feel so bad for yourself, and don't think are afraid to move forward, and you're going to be double checking yourself on everything. Just continue to work. We'll put stuff in, processes in place so it doesn't happen again, but I need you to pick yourself back up. It's like everyone's going to be kicking themselves so much in these scenarios. This is why I love the fact that we're advocates and cheerleaders for our people. It's like, when you're fall over, let us know, because we're going to help pick you back up, because that's what you need. You don't need someone else yelling at you. You're doing a good job of that all by yourself. We're going to help get you back on track, because that's what needs to happen. You've screwed up. And I hope everybody that listens to this screws up massively in their career, not because I'm trying to curse you, but because they're great learning experiences, and I guarantee you'll never do it again. And that's kind of how this line of work is. It's, you screw up, or you have this great architecture. This thing works great, except whenever you actually implement it and you find all the things that are wrong with it, because, now that it's implemented, it was a new idea, here are all the cons, because nothing is 100% great whenever you're finished. And you learn from that and move on and make a better architecture next time. It's how we move forward. So hopefully not screwing up production and costing companies billions of dollars worth of damage, but it's like, you're going to screw up. Hopefully you screw up as early as possible, learn from it, and move on. That's how we all got good in our career.
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit and talk about that. Too much access is a dangerous thing. I had a system administrator once tell me, it's like, I'm going to make it so you can no longer do any work, and I am not going to touch a thing. And I'm like, well, how are you going to do that? And he's like, I'm going to give you root password. and and I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't
I don't
I
want
don't
it.
want that level of control.
Yeah. I like to have plausible deniability. Don't give me any production access that I don't need, because if something else screws up, I don't want my name coming up.
So that's a really valuable tip, is like, if somebody wants to give you more access and more controls, think about that before you accept that responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say that we do a good job of bringing people up. I'm not saying that vice presidents of sales are going to be happy. They're going to want to yell. So you don't want your name involved if you're not actually involved.
Well, I think if you don't, especially if you've been around and had a little bit of a career in our industry, if you don't have a I screwed up production story, you're not trying hard enough. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you don't have enough passion about what you do if you don't have one of those stories. So that's
yeah.
good to hear.
I'm sending anyone straight to you if they purposely screw up production now.
Now, I didn't say purposefully. Most people do it on accident. If you do it on accident, that's understandable. We've all been there, and we've all done that. So, when you think about, the people you like to have sitting next to you on a project, or working together on a piece of code or a product, what are the qualities of those kind of folks that you like to have around you, Josh?
Oh, number one, first and foremost, is dependable. I just want someone that I can give someone a task. No, and I'm not saying dependable like I give you a task, it gets done. I give you a task and either it gets done, or if you have issues, there's this fine line between going and figuring something out yourself and running your head up against a brick wall over and over again. Would you get kind of in the mode where it's like, I don't know what to do, ask the questions. I don't expect anyone working for me to have all the answers. It'd be great if you did. I mean, but it's like, don't be afraid to ask and get feedback, as opposed to thinking that I expect everyone to be able to do everything all at once. Two is being able to work together and not, there's every team has different dynamics and different personalities, and just being able to work together and build trust, because if you have trust on a team, you can solve world hunger. I mean, trust is so vitally important. Being able to be open with one another, being able to be, to criticize, thoughtfully, and be able to take that criticism and introspect, being able to push back, being able to say no, all these things. If you can do it within your team, is just the ultimate you can get on a team. Personally, with just Josh Marotti and not a general sense, I always like someone that likes to do documentation, as I said before, because I hate it. But really, I like to, my job, the way I see, because there's different kinds of leads, because I typically lead a team, but it's like, I know Aaron's a get in the weeds kind of person. You're going to be in the code a whole lot. I like to go to meetings, help get decisions off the table, let the devs do the work, and I do a lot less coding. So it's like, I need someone that I can trust is going to be a good shepherd of the code in my absence, and I'll still look at PRs and I'll still help with decision making, but I tend to stand a little higher than some other leads. So that's something very important to me, is to have like a code shepherd that I could always trust and depend on, that'll have write good code, make sure the tests are working well, we're going to cover edge cases, error handling's held well, we're logging well, all that kind of stuff. But dependability and people willing to work together and build trust and work to, be transparent, introspective, that sort of thing.
So you mentioned you like to go to meetings. What does your therapist think about that?
I don't like to go to meetings, but I like to call this the white knight factor of Josh Marotti. But I like to go to meetings so no one else has to. It's like, I'm willing to make that. That's the sword I can fall on for the team. I will do all of that stuff so you all can code. And because I know if I know anybody that's developing, it's like, you like to sit and code. That's what we like to do. I remember being on when I was at the current client, the first year I was there, I was just a team member, because I was just put on there as a TNM to kind of break the client. And it's like, after a year, it was like, man, I really do like to code. And it was a lot of fun. And then I got more into the roles that I'm in now, which is more like architecture, meetings, and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, I'm willing to do that so everyone can do the work that they like to do, and try to get some of the stuff they don't like off their plate.
But we do have a lightning round that these where we double the points and double the risk. So, Josh, I hope you're ready. Just a few quick questions. Coke or Pepsi?
I don't drink much pop nowadays, but I used to be a pop guy, or a Pepsi guy, but I could really drink either. I don't have a preference. I know that's weird.
That is weird. We will accept that answer. You won't get any points for it, but we'll accept it as that it is an answer.
Okay.
I
said something.
VI or Emacs?
Right. I would say after college I was an Emacs guy, but being in the field long enough, I'm a VI guy now. Vim.
All right.
I'd rather have an IDE.
Kotlin or Scala? I know the answer to this.
Oh, you know the answer to that. This isn't even worth asking. Kotlin is the best language in the entire world.
Nice.
Just
there's no truth-y or falsy there either, by the way, folks.
Yeah, they're just for the record, this is not being sponsored by Colin.
Should be.
Right.
Should be.
All right. So, how's he doing on points, Aaron? I think we're getting to the end of time here, so we probably need to
So
tally up his
after the
points.
lightning round, he has redeemed himself with 200 points. So he's won our grand prize of a year supply of respect and the instant gratitude. All right, so that wraps up our show. Thank you for listening to the forward slash, our lean into the future of IT. I'd like to thank our producers, Dylan Quartz, Ryan Wilson, and Zach Welchel, as well as our editor, John Corey, and my co-host and lovely man that he is, James Carmen. I am Aaron Chesney, and thank you for listening. Stay tuned for future episodes of the forward slash.